Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Salvage Workshop. So today, we're going to keep going with this old welder generator that we've gone way past what I initially wanted to, but it is turning out awesome. So I've got some additional parts, I've got some things we're going to add to it. Let's try and get it put back together to the point that we can actually start it up and make sure it works. Got a monster Red-D-Arc, and there's our Kubota diesel. Yeah, it's crusty down there. 2013. Well, the engine's not seized. We do. It didn't even have fuel hooked up to it. Oh my, there is a massive nesting. I'm thinking that this wire is on the wrong side here. Not a better time than right this minute to paint this engine. So I got the panels all painted. So here's kind of the list that we've got. Murphy water temp gauge, I'm still waiting on the right one. I did order one, got the wrong one. Exhaust manifold, some way to brace it so it doesn't break again, because I've seen a bunch of pictures of that manifold breaking on other machines too. Start it up, make sure everything works. New rheostat, wire loom, put all the covers on the exciter, label the oil line, wire up the shutoff solenoid, 20 amp breaker for our 240 volt outlet, put the fuel tank in, fuel lines, install the top and side cover, and then a trailer. So here's the original rheostat, and this here was so welded onto this, rusted onto this shaft here, I could not get it out. And what ended up happening is I basically pulled the whole thing through and it broke some of the ceramics, and maybe I can find a new ceramic piece. I think the rest of this is all still good. I didn't even really mess. I don't have a bad one of these that I could steal that inside part out, so I basically got a new rheostat. So we'll get this put in. I was able to finally get this off the shaft. I had to drill out and tap this to a different size bolt, but it should still work fine in regards to actually going tight up against this shaft here to be able to use it for adjustment. So let's get that put on. If you put the nut on before you finish the cut, or before you make the cut, and then you back that nut off, it helps clean those threads up so that you don't have as much sanding to do, or grinding, or filing. So, much better. And what we did here was essentially, I made some stainless cap head screws, shortened them to replace these old flatheads. So this will be how we mount it on the front dash. All right, in my search for a black outlet, we're going to basically add a 220 volt outlet on the front of this. this is the style that they had, and this is a very, I don't know, it's not a very commonly used. You can buy these ends and put them on cords, and that'll give you a plug, but they're weird. I don't know if I've ever seen a tool come with a plug like that, or a machine, so I don't like that. What I did find was this. This is a very standard twist lock style. It takes a plug like that, and the nice thing is you put it in, and you twist it, and now it's not going to vibrate out. Only issue is on our panel, the size of that hole, the diameter of what the hole needs, is slightly larger for this. So, again, should have done this when I had the machine torn down before paint. But what we're going to do, because the actual bolt holes here and here and here and here match up, we're going to die grind that out just slightly bigger and put this outlet in. That'll give us a 20 amp, way better, more universal style, at least here in the US. Me personally, I have some cords and stuff like this with this style connector, and that'll allow us to have also the color black. Doesn't really matter at all, but I'm going as far as I am with the aesthetics of the machine. The other outlet is black, and the black kind of just blends in with that dark blue, and that's why I wanted to go this route. Now, to do that, we also have to add a 20 amp breaker. And so I bought one of these. We're going to drill a hole and mount it in the dash, similar to the two 15 amp breakers that we have for the other outlet. So that'll be that. I also got some of these covers. So what these do is, once you install this, you thread this over the top of that button to try and keep water from getting into that breaker and ruining it. And I think that's what happened to the two 15 amps that were on the dash before. I think they got water over the years and just ended up, you know, rusting out and just inside and destroyed. All right, so this is the hole we got to open up. And this basically fits right in there like so. And that one. So I did not do a perfect job of getting that circle to be a circle. You can see a little more gap there, a little more gap there. The holes do line up. Oh well, is what it is. Nothing we can do about it now. Other than, I think I might have an outlet cover that I could put over that, and it will do two things. It'll hide my imperfections and also protect it from the weather. So I'm gonna see if I can find one. But for now, it's in. Now, in order to put this breaker, I gotta find a spot on the dash that doesn't have stuff behind it. This here, this bolt, it does not have anything attached to it, and I literally have it there as a space holder. I don't love that spot. I love that spot right there, kind of right in that area. On the back side, there's pretty much nothing there. It's right between the two circles of the gauges, so it would fit well in that area on the back. So I think we're going to pull that out, and I'm basically just going to kind of open up a circle with the die grinder. I know that's a little bit sketchy, but the thing about a hole is if you start drilling in a location where you already have a hole, the drill bit is going to want to jump over into that. And I want to do this with as little damage as possible. So let's see how this goes. Ah, damn it. Not sure what I expected here. don't think that looks too bad. Wish I hadn't scuffed it, but... So these 3 breakers have these little round rings that hold them in there, and on the back, there's actually a hex nut like this. So I had it set up where the hex nut was on the one side, and this round piece was on the outside. Well, we're gonna add these caps that are gonna cover waterproof-wise, but they need more threads to be able to go on. So I took, on these 2, I took the round tightening part off, the round nut, took the nut from the backside off, put it in there, and basically installed it just with this one nut. That gives me a lot more threads, and honestly, on the inside, these breakers are a heck of a lot more stout and secure in the dash. They do have metal on the other side of it that is retaining it, so it's not putting up a bunch of pressure on plastic. But now I've got all these extra threads for those screw-on waterproof caps. So let's get this one taken apart. Just gotta be really gentle around the paint. So I've got these 2 different style caps. One is just a round with a brass nut inside, and it's squared. And this is an actual like stainless nut, and the rubber goes all the way over it, and it's rounded. Not sure which one I like better yet. They have different threads? I think they might be different threads. That might make our decision easy. Yep, that is not the right style. Nope. Alright, looks like we're going with these. Hopefully they thread on. The heck? Could have sworn I tried this earlier. Maybe it literally only needs a few threads. Okay, well, I guess it only needs a few threads. So if we put these little rings back on, so then if they get tripped, just push it in, and you can view it if it pops out. So the wiring diagram I have for the Lincoln Electric welder, it shows 2 20-amp breakers, similar to their 2 15-amp breakers. And so I need to add another 20-amp, and I'm thinking I'm going to put it right there. The reason is because each one of these is a breaker for one leg of the outlet. My thought is that we kind of put it right there, and it kind of looks even. There we go. All right, so we've got the patent pending Moto IV hooked up to the welder. The plan is to start it up, make sure everything is generating still, make sure it starts the way it should. I want to do a bunch of wire loom and stuff on the inside before we put the fuel tank in, but I don't want to do it until we know that everything works the way it should. A lot has been updated or replaced, and I just don't want to have any problems. So let's try and prime it. I'm using this because I can gravity feed that filter and then the pump, and hopefully we don't need to add in the electric clicky-clack to get everything primed. But give it a start. Screw the battery in. on. That might help. Starting to get fuel out of the return line. Let me get a battery pack. All right, so next up, we're going to test that fuel shutoff solenoid and make sure that it works. And the way we're going to do it is I've got these little connectors here. This white wire brings power over to keep this shutoff solenoid energized. So we're going to disconnect it there, and we're going to see how long it takes for it to kill it, if it kills it at all. And so that's what the oil pressure sensor would do. So if it got too low on oil pressure, it would stop sending power over that, and then the shutoff solenoid would close, killing the fuel. Here is where our water temp gauge is going to go. I don't have it yet because I bought the wrong one, but I also have a disconnect here. And so these are currently connected in series as if the water temp gauge was working. So if I disconnect these two wires, I take one out, it should also kill it. I have not tested this. This is the first time I've had it running since we've done all that. So this is also the first time we've run it with that shutoff solenoid in the circuit. So far so good. It seems to be getting power, staying on, letting fuel through. You still have to manually shut it down by pulling this, which is fine. That's what I expected. So let's start it back up, and we'll start with the oil pressure switch as if it was basically losing oil pressure. We'll see if that kills it. If it does, start it back up, and we'll try the water temp gauge, and this would be as if the water temp got too high. So here we go. Wow, that actually killed it a lot faster than I thought it was gonna. I thought it was gonna have to use up all the fuel in the fuel injection pump and this line, and I don't think it did. Another thing, this coolant overflow tube is getting sucked in by the fan. I need to zip tie that out of the way. But awesome, that works. So let's put that back in there, and we'll try the other side. Start it back up. Awesome, same exact scenario. So that white wire is basically in the same circuit. So if we lose oil pressure or we get too hot on the coolant temp, our safeties are working. That shutoff solenoid is absolutely doing its job. So is the oil pressure sensor and our imaginary water temp gauge. Awesome, great news. I'm gonna start this baby up. And here's why I left that light on. This is why I added that light. So we pull it to kill it, right? But then we still have the ignition on with the key because we added a key switch. So now that light tells me shut the key off. we're also going to test, we know we're getting out power here, but I need to put a meter and see if we're getting power at our new 220 outlet. All 4 of the breakers look, they're not tripped, none of them. I got that all connected and wired up here for the 220 outlet. I didn't show any of that because it was boring. But yeah, sweet. Just put this white wire back in here and we'll start it back up and let it run for a little while. All right, let's just show you the wiring. All the wire loom. I've got it around majority of the wires that are outside of this dash area. Pretty much everything in this dash area is new. The only thing that's not new is the sight thing for the glow plugs. The hour meter's not new. This whole contactor for the different amperage ranges is not new. The outlet and this connector for the actual rheostat or the ability to plug in a remote rheostat control is not new. Everything else is pretty much new. A lot of the wiring is new, most of it. There's a few pieces here and there that aren't. But we are looking awesome. So let's get the fuel tank in. So I haven't put the fuel tank in yet, because first I want to make sure that we got everything in this area right and that it ran without having any issues. Now that we know it runs, starts right up, time to put the fuel tank in. All right, well, we got our gas tank prepped, and here's our new fuel bowl. It's got a shut off here, and it threads up in there. I took the elbow off of the old one here, got it all cleaned out and cleaned up, and it's gonna go right here. So let's get this installed. There we go. Perfect. All right, so the plan is now we're going to get this exciter cover put back on, but the original bolts were not in very good shape, so I've got these stainless steel ones, but this is too long. I need to cut them down to a smaller size so that they can go in this hole here and not basically push down into the bottom, but yet hold this cover on fine. So let's get this cut down to the right size, and then we'll get that fitted on. All right, so on this cover, there's a little notch for the electrical wires right here. And so originally there was this little piece of plastic here to kind of insulate, keep the wires from contacting it. I may reuse it, haven't decided. I have kind of dug through my rubber and plastic stuff, and I found this thing, which I could cut in half, and I might be able to make that work. And then we'll cut the middle out. Let's try that. All right. I think that could work. Starting to come together. All right, another thing I want to do is I want to add an outlet cover over this outlet. It also does not stop anything from getting in that outlet. This outlet, the grounds are not plugged, but these two, they've got a little door that when you push in the plug, it opens up. And so not that it's waterproof, because it's not, but it's better than nothing. And this space, there's not really a good enough area to be able to add an outlet cover, but this one, there is. Now that we got this cover for the exciter on, we can look at a couple that I've got and try and decide which one will be best. I'm going to have to modify them no matter which one, but I've got these three styles. So this one kind of comes up like at an angle. Not the biggest fan of that. Not sure if I can get a plug in there. This one's probably too small. This is probably what I'm going to go with. So it opens up to about like that. The issue with all of these is that they're all built for this size outlet. So exactly what we had to do to the panel, we're going to have to do to the outlet cover. The beauty is, even if I don't get the circle perfect, it'll be covered. You won't be able to see it. And I don't like the look of the black or the gray plastic on here. So what we'll probably do is I'll sand off all these words, and then we'll paint this black, just to kind of go with the thing. The other problem that we have is that the bolt holes do not line up. These two bolt holes would work for the mounting holes in this outlet, not the outer ones. And what we really need is these outer holes. Well, they line up with these two indents. The problem with that is those two holes, or the little indents, essentially kind of line up right around the area where this rim is, which we don't want to go into that rim, because that rim is where the waterproof seal pushes against, and that keeps the water out. Worst case, we do get into that area, and it's just not as waterproof as it could be, but it does look better. So that will be the silver lining if I can't get it figured out. Beautiful. Look at that. That took like no time at all, and we got all the words right off. Sweet. There. I decided, instead of trying to make that circle perfect, it doesn't matter. And by making this big, it allows it so that I can stick that plug in there and it's not going to end up hitting and not being able to go in far enough. Because really, I don't care. It's sealed along this top lip. There's a gasket that's going to go on the back that's also going to seal it. And when you open it, you'll see that that hole's not cut perfectly on the outlet, but I just don't care. This will do everything I want it to do, and from the outside, it'll hide it. So I've scuffed it all up. I'm going to do a little bit more cleanup on this thing, and we're going to throw some paint on it and make it fit on the machine. All right, I think it's finally time to set the hood on. One thing I added is a little bit of like a, it's like a foam gasket material on that edge there, and right here on this edge, just to kind of protect the paint, I don't know, and dampen the vibration maybe a little bit when it's actually running, if there's any at all. So, not sure if that was necessary. It definitely didn't have any before, but I think it'll be fine. So let's get that hood and we'll set it on there. Alright, so I want to take off the zinc coating on this so that we can actually blacken it. We're going to give muriatic acid a try. This is not new stuff. I've used it for rust removal. It won't look clean, but it should do its job. I know you're there. I hear you. I guess we do it.
Dissolving something.
I was gonna say, I guess we do it until the bubbles go away, or the bolts are gone.
Yeah. There's definitely something dissolving.
Well, it looks done. If I can get one. Yeah, looks pretty bare metal to me. We'll get that in some water, kind of neutralize it. I'll explain what we're making here in a minute, but this is what we did. We took the zinc off of it, and the plan is to use a product by Sculpt Nouveau called Black Magic. It's basically a product that allows us to blacken metal. And so you see that? We took it from this to this. And so you start with a degreaser, a cleaner, you wipe it down, dry it off, and then you spray this, and it almost instantly blackens it. And the more coats you do, the darker it can get, the lighter it is. You can also leave it on longer to get darker, but by getting all the zinc off, that allows us to take this basically bare metal now, just an iron of some kind, and change it to this. So I'll show you. I've already cleaned them. I've already dried them all off. This is how quick we'll turn this to black. Just like that. Kind of make sure it gets coated everywhere. Then we'll take water and neutralize it. And boom, there it is. On the ground. So we went from this to this. So we're going to weld these on to some brackets, and I'll get these two blackened, but we might go over this again later to add some black to it, make it a little darker. But for now, I just want to kind of show you the process. If you guys are interested at all, this Sculpt Nouveau has all kinds of other chemicals for doing different colors, grays, rainbows, other patinas. Awesome products from an awesome company. So Absolutely awesome way to customize something as simple as this. Still low. And that's why they make grinders. I'll have to see how that one turns out after it cools. Look at it again real quick. Step back.
Yep.
Wouldn't let go. It's not straight. Let me put that.
It's pretty good. That's pretty
Yeah.
straight.
All right, let's go with that. All right, so here's what we made. Essentially, this is going to hang underneath the mantle. A stone mantle is going to go right on top of these, like this. And so we've got a bar underneath to hang stockings, to hang fireplace tools, you name it, that kind of stuff, decorations on it. So this bracket here, this piece, will get hidden behind stone veneer, but all of this will be on the bottom side. You won't see it unless you get under there and look. But there's one special detail y'all might like. On the very ends here, we took a Caterpillar bolt, lopped it off, and welded it to the end to be the end cap. Just a subtle little detail. So yeah, a friend of mine that this is going in his house, he works at Cat, and so we thought this would be an awesome little touch. Probably nobody will see it but us, but I guess you guys get to see it. Check that thing out. There's our finished product. Heck yeah. Look at that. Got it anchored to the wall and all of those L brackets, all 4 of them. And then it's mortared in along with the actual mantle itself. So beautiful stonework. The gentleman that did this for my friend did a great job. Got this beautiful wood burning stove. That thing is heavy. But yeah, absolutely awesome. Got the Caterpillar bolts for the ends. You can barely even tell, just a subtle little touch. And we also put a clear coat over it so it won't start rusting later. So looks absolutely fantastic. So let's get back to finishing the old welder generator. Beautiful. That looks really, really good. All right. There's our cover. There's our gasket. That's going to cover the outlet. Sweet. There it is. I'm going to do a little touch-up paint on that, but so this is the plug that now it'll accept. Stick it in. Enough room for it to go all the way into that cover. Twist lock. Solid. And then the door will just kind of lean against the plug. So sweet. Now you don't see my die grinding mess up, and we're a little bit more weatherproof. Just a little bit. All right. I want to replace the rubber mounts. There's 4 of them, 2 for the generator side and 2 for the engine side. And they're basically, you know, I think that they've been sitting on those mounts so long that they could start cracking. And I don't want that to happen. I have this piece of like horse stall mat or workout gym flooring. I don't know exactly if this is the right material. I think it'll be fine, but it's like, this stuff is like little bits of rubber that are kind of molded into a flat sheet, but it's not like a solid chunk of rubber. I've got some other stuff at the other shop that might be a little bit more solid than this. I might run up and see what I've got. Either way, I think right now I am going to cut some pieces just to have them. So we need 2" by 2". So this is a factory corner, so I can use the square to get my line straight. So that's what we're after. 2" by 2". We'll drill a hole through it and then mount it. It'll go between the frame and the actual mount for the generator or the motor, depending on which one we're putting it in. But I made one. I'm going to go run and see what other materials I've got. And if I've got something I think will be a little stronger, we'll use it. Because my worry with something like this is, over time, the vibrations breaking this thing down, and then it just disintegrates and there's no dampening. That's the reason that I'm replacing what's in there now, is because it is breaking down. For now, we made one. Let's go find out what other materials I have. All right, so underneath the shark tank, got some chunks of that style rubber flooring. Here's a smaller piece.
it's pretty much the same thing, just this has got some holes, or like, you know, grip to it. We'll take a piece of it down there with us. Another thing I might have more of is those rubber mounts that go underneath the feet of the compressor. I'm gonna dig around and look for those, see if I've got them. So I did end up finding them. These are those pads, and they are too big, but I have 4 of them, and if we have to cut them down, maybe we'll use these. But we're gonna take all this back down to the other shop. So it definitely looks like this stuff here that I got from the other shop is definitely way more dense than the stuff above. And you can just see how thick that rubber is compared to how not so dense it is on this one. They're both, I think, made of very similar materials. It's just, I think this is harder, essentially. I think it'll take more to break it down. But I think since I have this, it looks like it's 4 inches by 4 inches. So I'll take one and we'll chop it up, and that gives us all 4 we need. There's almost like a foam in there, and then there's some sort of a, you know, a rubber on top and bottom. I don't know. I'm going to go with this, I think, because I just think I'm going to trust that a little bit better than something that might fall apart. So I think that's the plan. I'll get this cut up, and we'll get these installed.
So when I started doing this project for this Red-D-Arc Welder Generator, I reached out to Red-D-Arc thinking, hey, maybe they'd be interested in working together. And, well, I was right. And so they basically hooked me up with all kinds of parts. We've got radiator hoses, one of the small little water pipes. I had to get the 2 Murphy gauges. We got the right ones now. We've got a new exhaust manifold, a new muffler that might work. This location is a little different than where it comes out there. We're going to try and use it because it's shorter and weighs less than this tall one. But we've got a stinger and a ground clamp. This is a remote control. Essentially, it's a fine adjustment. It's the rheostat. So you plug this in on the machine, and it allows you to use all this extension wire to run this fine adjustment all the way out where you're welding and still be able to kind of dial in exactly where you need to be when you're welding. So, Red-D-Arc is owned by Airgas. Airgas is a company that does all kinds of different things, but they also own a company called Radnor. Radnor is their welding line, and so they hooked me up with an air arc torch for arc gouging. So I've got a torch there, we've got welding gloves, brand new welding helmet. We also got a couple leads for the welder itself. And this here is a full cage. And so that, it doesn't actually work on mine directly. We're gonna have to drill some holes. But what it's gonna do is protect the front and rear cover, and then these side pieces go across the sides, protecting the sides. We got some decals. I'm not sure how much we're going to use in regards to that because I might do some custom stuff. But huge shout out to Red-D-Arc and to Airgas for sponsoring. They also hooked me up with a whole bunch of welding rod. That's 7018 1/8, and a bunch of extra copper gouging electrodes, which is absolutely exciting. Totally pumped to have an air arc gouger, and that's a tool I've wanted for a long time and just have not gotten around to getting. But it's great to have one, and I truly appreciate that they were willing to sponsor the project and help us get to the very end on it. So let's kind of jump right into getting some of these things replaced, get these gauges in, work on the manifold and the exhaust. And then we've got exhaust, the gauges. Somehow we want to brace that muffler to avoid it breaking again. All right, so next up I want to jump into getting the gauges installed, or at least the water temp gauge. Get these radiator hoses done, and while we're doing that, we're going to change the coolant in it. I've got a ton of it, a ton of brand new coolant, and we might as well get that done while we're replacing the upper and lower radiator hose. And then the exhaust manifold, that's going to be a next thing we need to tackle. So let's jump on that. A little high heat engine paint. So this stuff is very high temperature. It is rated at 1300 to 2000 degrees Fahrenheit. They're calling it header paint. I don't know. This is an old can. I've had it laying around for a while. And it's flat black, so it'll be fine. You have to let me know if you've used this stuff before, if it's any good. I just got this can somewhere. I really have no idea where I got it. All right, we're going to drain the coolant again. Got this hose on here. Should start draining into this pan. Like so. All right, now we're going to take this plug here, and this is what blocks the port for the water temp gauge. So hopefully you've got it drained out enough. It might leak out a little bit here. Throw a bucket down below it, just in case. Cool. All right, so this is the correct water temp gauge, and it should have, is that just the adapter? It should have 3 wires. It does. Red, black, and white. And from what I know, you connect, one of them is always connected, and then one of the wires gives you normally open, and the other wire gives you normally closed. Let's see if we can figure that out. It does not say on this. I'm going to pull up the PDF I have. All right, so here's the PDF I've got. And essentially, we have a 20 TE. So the white is your common. If you want normally closed, which means that the circuit is complete, then you use the red wire. If you want normally open, you use the black wire. So basically, we're going to use the white and the red, and then the black wire will not get used, and it gets grounded through the case. So that's what I need to figure out, because it can be either way. So I'm not going to mount this permanent right now. I'm just going to get it finger tight. Because I want to put some sealant on that. But I want to get the route correct. Figure that out. Well, I need to take some paint off that hole, just like the other ones. There we go. So this is the actual radiator hose that should go there. This is definitely somebody's retrofit. And I'm hoping it's long enough. We're gonna find out. Got a pan down here in case we have any more coolant in there. And we do. Some goo. These were brand new hose clamps, so we're going to reuse them. I think it should work fine. I'm going to get this end on, then I'm going to kind of push that end in a little more. I would have done this before, but I didn't have all the parts, including both radiator hoses. So we're just going to swap them out now. Alright, I got all new gaskets for the exhaust manifold. We're going to put that on. Got it all painted up and dried. Looking sharp. A lot better than the brake. So I'm going to get that tightened up, and then I'm going to show you the muffler situation. All right, here's our muffler situation. So this is the original one that we had, and it's great and all, and it works fine. Fits fine, everything. It's a little dinged up, but I'm not too worried about that. Problem is, it's heavy. And this is the original exhaust manifold. And essentially it just cracks off exactly like that. And I've seen pictures online of other ones that have either sold or I found pictures of them. Most, if not all, were always brazed right around there. So clearly all that weight hanging on just this exhaust, this cast iron piece, and all the vibrations of the welder and everything, this thing being so tall, it, you know, kind of moves like that over time and just cracks it. So, Red-D-Arc provided me this muffler, and it's shorter, it's a little bit wider. Problem is, it doesn't fit in there. So, this one will just drop straight down in. Like so. Line that up. And then it basically fits right in the center of that hole. And yeah, that's fine and all, right? Well, I wanted to try and avoid using this one. Oh, this paint. I am telling you, whatever paint I used is the crappiest paint I've ever used. It scratches. If I just wipe the dust off, I get surface scratches all over it. And we barely just nicked it now. And look at the little scratch. Man, that's frustrating. It happens. Anyway, getting back to the muffler. So if I stick this one in there, so we'll kind of get it up in here. If the pipe was to come right straight up, it might fit, but it would have to be over that much to be able to get this pipe to come out at all. And even if I turn it around, this pipe ends up coming out like right in that area. So, two options. I could chop this off, maybe cut this top off, and figure out how it was created and maybe try and move the exhaust port to the center. but I don't know how it's baffled, so I might get a borescope, stick it down there. And it looks to me like this support here, that little bolt hole right there, was added to be able to add some sort of a bracing bracket. The other thing that's nice is that this whole muffler stays below the hood, so there's nothing above the hood that's really going to get too hot other than a little tiny bit of pipe. I don't like these open 90s on a lot of old machines either, and so what I'm probably going to do, no matter which one I use, we're going to get a little flapper for the exhaust. I feel like long term, if this thing ends up sitting outside at some point, which it won't while I own it, it'll be better off if it has a flapper valve on it. So with all the work I've done to this thing, I'm not going to park this thing outside, but I do want to try and avoid this happening again on this machine. So if I can make this one work, we will. If not, we'll go ahead and use this one. I think we're probably going to add some bracing in it anyway. I think it's worth doing. So let's dig into getting that done. I've got the exhaust manifold fully bolted and mounted. I'm going to do a little touch-up paint on all of the nuts just to make it look a little nicer. And we'll go. So I got the oil temp gauge replaced with a better one. The one I had on here I was just using temporarily. This goes up to 125 PSI. Actually, yeah, 125. And the water temp gauge is the switched gauge that is normally, we set it up normally normally closed. And then I've got it kind of this red wire run right there to the water neck where it gets the temperature for the coolant. So that is looking great. I switched over these back to the other style because now I've got leads that I can use for it. I don't know if I showed this or not, but I found an awesome Lincoln Shield Arc Welder sticker. I think it's really cool, and the reason I like it is because this is a Lincoln welder. Whether or not Red-D-Arc branded it, Lincoln made the welder portion. Kubota made the engine. So I kind of want to honor that too. When it comes to the decals on the outside, I've got a set, and these are not the originals. They're not the style that I had on the machine. We were doing some looking and trying to figure out what year this machine was, and even Red-D-Arc cannot figure it out. They initially thought it was a 2011 model, but they stopped using this format for their serial number a long time ago. So it's definitely not 2011. They're thinking late 80s, early 90s. And so, you know, we've definitely got a gem here with only 2489 hours on it. And the fact that, you know, it works so absolutely amazing. Still think I do want to do some sort of a custom decal on the outside, but I want it to forever remain a Red-D-Arc branded machine. We are not changing this dash panel for two reasons. Number one, I really like it and I don't want to change it. And number two, they don't have any more. The only way for it would be for us to remake this or remanufacture it, and I don't really want to mess with that at this time. So it is got all the information we need on it, and it works perfect. Most of the machines now, the whole thing, this dash goes all the way down to this, and so a lot of the gauges and things are in different places. I was able to add these 3 gauges right there because there was nothing there. So if we did a newer style dash panel, a lot would change, and we're talking a ton of work and absolutely not worth it for me. So I like how it looks, and for now, that's I think what we're gonna go with. But the only thing that really truly frustrates me about this project is the dang paint. Beyond that, I am absolutely ecstatic. I think this machine is looking awesome. I love the colors. I love the black, silver, and the blue. I think it really looks good. I had this little decal here, and it said some other stuff below it, but I cut it. And so we just left danger, lethal shock hazard inside. Yeah, I think it looks kind of neat. But most of the other decals I've gotten rid of, other than on the Kubota. We left one that talks about installing the injection pump and the Kubota V1902 decal that you saw me put on in that location. So yeah, this thing is really looking nice. It's something I'm really proud of. I think we did a great job on getting it brought back to life and now brought back to worthy of owning, desirable, looking good. So let's keep going with the exhaust system. We're going to dive into this muffler and see if we can't reconfigure where the exhaust comes out. All right, I got the inspection camera and we're kind of looking down in there. It looks like right in there, there's like a channel or a tube of little baffles. See those? And you can see that weld around the outside there. That is the weld that's going to be this weld right here. So something essentially angles this way and goes up. So it's not like I could just drill a hole. But I'm wondering if I could chop this here and angle it a little bit more this way and then come up. I'm going to do a little bit of looking and try and figure out how much I'd actually have to cut. I don't want to have to drill another hole, which would be something we'd have to do. And I really want it to look like it's coming out of the factory location because I think it would just look nicer. So I'm going to do some measuring. Well, I'm glad I did a little bit more looking because this muffler was never going to work. And I'm glad I didn't chop anything or do anything because look, here is a brand new gasket and it fits perfectly on the exhaust manifold. But here, you put it onto there and the holes do not line up. The flange is too big. So this actually would fit one of my other Kubota engines, but the one we went and looked at when we were trying to get it off the Gale, I'm not going to use it for that, but all right, well, that solves our issue. We're not using this muffler because it's not the right one. Check that out. Got the cage entirely installed. Mostly anyway. I'm thinking I'm going to do another bolt hole right there on each side, both on the front and the back, mainly because this front here, that bolt is only really through that front cover. But if I do another bolt below it, I can get into that support beam, which will add a lot of strength. At least that's my thought. Now, these are probably originally meant to be cupped facing in, but the problem with it is that with this muffler here, it contacts it. And so I'm okay with them out because it actually makes the cage wider than the body itself. And so that's going to better protect it through a long run of stuff like hitting it or falling or leaning something against the whole welder. You're not leaning it at all on the body, only on this top frame. But what I think I'm going to do, we're going to cut some 45s out just to kind of decorate it a little bit better on all four of these corners. And then I think the best way to support this muffler is to make something that comes off of this. So if I either come around with a bracket here, or I literally just go straight across with some sort of a bracket, I can add a ton of strength to that muffler to try and avoid it breaking down here on the exhaust manifold. Instead of trying to figure out something up in here and, whatever, this is so much faster and easier. Plus, honestly, it's probably going to be stronger and easier to take off later. So I still do need to get a little flapper cap for the exhaust here, but we are really getting there. So let's temporarily hang one of these side doors. Yeah, that looks good. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually making this thicker so it fits the gap between the actual bar and the muffler. And then what I'll have to do is I'll have to then drill out the holes for the bolt. But for now, I'm just adding a thick piece of metal to the outside so that it shims it. So we're going to go try it, and then I'll weld all the way around, and then we'll grind it all smooth. Perfect. So it doesn't, the clamp is not going to pull the muffler one way or the other, but it is going to keep it from moving, and that's really the goal here. And then I was kind of thinking of doing a support bar across here and here, and then having the clamp come this way, but this will at least secure the muffler and keep it from moving. Hot. All right, I have not started it in probably weeks. So, got the battery on, give it a little preheat for the glow plugs, and we are glowing. Here we go. I think I turned the fuel off. Yep, I did. Let's open that back up. So I got these two decals for the outside, and since it's not the exact decal I have, I don't want to put it on the outside of the machine. So what I did is I chopped off the ends of this one, mainly because it'll fit better, but also because this one must have been bouncing around somewhere, and it basically got a whole bunch of wood dust all over it. And so the decal, at least in that corner, is not going to stick, and I don't really want to mess with spray glue or anything like that. So we're going to place this in a different spot, and I'll show you where I'm talking. Right on the side here, I've got this little protective cover for the belt and the fan, and I think this is a perfect spot to throw that on just like that, which when the side cover is on, will be covered. The side cover comes to about right there. So, yeah, let's go with that. Beautiful. Chopped up another one of the decals, and I'm going to stick it right there. The old saying that if it looks straight, then it is. That looks about right. Sweet. Heck yeah, I like that. That looks nice. Beautiful. That looks good. Check that out. What a difference we made here. What a beautiful machine. Absolutely amazing. I did not paint the blue frame rails. Those are how they came from Red-D-Arc. They provided that. Absolutely amazing collaboration with that company. They really do try and work very hard to provide amazing machines for their customers. And if you're interested in either renting a machine or finding a used machine that you could buy off of them, they have them on their website. Go check out Red-D-Arc online. I'll leave a link in the description. Big shout out to Radnor Products, which is essentially part of Airgas. And next up, we're gonna be taking this little guy and we're gonna be putting it on that. At least that's the plan at the moment. This is a little bit under beefy, undersized maybe than I was originally wanting, so I might keep an eye out for a different trailer, but we're gonna slap this thing onto a trailer, which will make it way more usable. But man, check it out. It's a little dusty just for having been in the shop, but out here in the sun, see a little bit more. Check out that Lincoln Shield Arc Welder, beautiful Kubota diesel engine, Red-D-Arc D300K, absolutely awesome. Doors shut like a dream. One thing I really like is this protective frame. It actually sticks out past those doors, and I'm really happy with that. This is going to protect it from all the abuse that I'm going to give it, and that's the thing. This went way beyond what I wanted, because at the end of the day, the plan is to use this machine. So if we dent it, if we ding it, so be it. I am not afraid of that. We did an amazing job. We got it mechanically sound. It runs, it operates the way it should. It generates power, it welds, and we're gonna test that next. So we're gonna basically use this machine to build its trailer. That's the plan. That's kind of what I was thinking. I have a nice MIG welder, but we did all the work to this bad boy. We might as well have it build its own trailer. So we're gonna do that. I've got a carbon arc torch that we're gonna use to torch some pieces off of this thing. I don't know, maybe we'll find some other uses for it. And here on the other side, look at that beautiful Diesel Welder. And there's our Kubota diesel. And that Kubota diesel engine. Thing turned out way beyond what I thought it would be, but that is absolutely no problem with me. Look at that shine. I want to give a big thank you to Red-D-Arc, and they absolutely provided a ton of parts for that machine and were a huge supporter of the idea of working together. I contacted them. I basically told them I had this old machine of theirs, and they were all over it. They helped me figure out what parts I needed. They helped me figure out what safety gear that I could get from Radnor. They found you know, different things that they had from older machines. Like this is actually a used fine current adjuster. I don't care. Like, it's absolutely amazing to have it. I truly appreciate it. If you guys are interested in any of their used welding equipment, just remember that it is professionally maintained. It's stuff that, you know, they rent a lot of it out to big fleets that do stuff all over the United States. And when it comes back to them, they make sure it is as good as it can be. And when they go to sell it, they've gone through the entire machine, making sure everything operates the way it should. And if something's broken, they fix it. And then when it goes off to the sale to the new person, it actually comes with a warranty. And I don't know if my machine was sold that way or whoever bought my machine used from Red-D-Arc, they probably had a warranty at that time too. Mike, I have no idea how he got the welder. And obviously, you know, I bought it from Mike. You saw the condition that it was in. It didn't run. It did not weld. It didn't generate. And when I bought it, Mike told me that. He said, doesn't weld, it won't generate. Engine runs great. We had to do a little work to get the engine running, but I truly appreciate the support of Red-D-Arc and Airgas. Airgas is one of the leading companies that provides gases for shops, the medical community, different places like that. I get my gas for my oxyacetylene torches from them. My gas for my MIG welder comes from Airgas. And Radner is a brand that they also have that does electrodes, the gouging stuff. They've got a lot of safety gear. And it's actually really affordable compared to some of the other brands. So if you're interested in any of that kind of stuff, go check them out. I'll put links down in the description. Huge shout out to Red-D-Arc and their team being able to get all the parts together for me and help me finish this project. So, as I said before, next up, we're gonna go and mount that thing onto a trailer, try and get that situated. I've got some little additions that I wanna add to the trailer to be able to store different things. So, if you're at all interested or invested in this project, then stick around for part 4, where we're gonna jump right into building that trailer out, getting that thing mounted, and making it a little bit more movable. But as of this moment, that welder is ready to rock and roll. And I am pumped to have it in the fleet here at Salvage Workshop. As always, your support absolutely means the world to me and my family. So thank you for supporting Salvage Workshop. Thank you for watching the videos. And I truly hope you guys have a great one. And I will catch you on the next video. Take it easy.